Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogens. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
Yeah.
Oh, you are there. Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Like oxygen and carbon dioxide, man.
You were stretching with Gretchen, huh?
I'm here.
Welcome back, everybody. You are now tuned in to High at 9 News. Thanks for joining not only to get High at 9 with us, but also High Noon on the East Coast. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. And it is, what is today? April 11th?
Yes, Tuesday, April 11th.
Tuesday, April 11th.
It's actually
it is also National Barbershop Quartet Day. And thank God barbershop quartets do not exist anymore. 4 creepy men singing to you while you're getting your hair cut. I'm not with it. National 8-track Tape Day. Okay, boomers. National Living Donor Day. If you got extras, socialize them organs. National Submarine Day, because it's way cooler to bomb enemies underwater. And National Pet Day, because humans are overrated. And finally, National Cheese Fondue Day. Great for everybody, but sufferers of lactose intolerance. Everybody out there watching, please like, share, and hit subscribe button and follow us High at 9 News across all social media platforms. We're live weekday mornings. You can catch us live and direct at highat9news.com, but also YouTube and Twitch and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you do choose the Clubhouse route, you can participate in the show by raising your hand with a brief comment on the story presented. And up first today, y'all know who it is. It's the Green Street Bully himself. West Hollywood's right-leaning president of cannabis tourism, actively also the industry's longest continuously operating retailer, known to many for smoking on the best weed in the world, Jason Beck.
Yeah. You know, Rico, I've never met a disabled bully before. Just saying.
The guy who created 8chan.
Stop it. Also, too, today I think should also be National Mary J. Blige Day, because today is 4/11. What's the 411?
411. Yeah, man. I like that one, man. Your R&B roots. I didn't know you were an MJB fan.
I'm not. Not at all.
I smell a new celebrity weed brand coming up.
You are. You like? Do you like watch outdated? You watch old Donald Trump rallies with Mary J. Blige playing gently in the background. You're so I can find you doing on the weekends.
Donald J. Trump rallies are probably the best because there's the most high energy people in the crowd.
I can dig it.
Yes.
What you got for us today, man?
Oh, yeah. But you know what? I got a pretty interesting story for you guys today coming out of Alabama, where, you know, this does not surprise me at all. But here we go. 3 lawsuits allege Alabama medical cannabis license portal is flawed. 3 marijuana companies allege in separate lawsuits that the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission's online license application portal is faulty. Oh, man. A Monterey County Circuit Court judge last week ordered the MMJ regulatory agency to now consider applications from Med Shop Dispensary and Terra True, according to the Alabama Daily News. A different circuit judge decided that the Medical Cannabis Commission does not have to consider the application in the case of the third company, Red Bud Remedies. I wonder if they're financed by Red Bull. And they say all 3 lawsuits filed in March allege that the respective companies were not warned that the portal would not accept documentation with file sizes larger than 10 megabytes the Daily News reported. According to the newspaper, MedShop alleged the commission gave some companies a workaround solution to submit their applications, and TheraTrue said it was forced to submit documents of lesser quality than those it intended to originally submit. The University of South Alabama was selected in December to evaluate the high number of MMJ business applications submitted to regulators since the launch period opened back in September. Now, I have to ask all of y'all, what do you guys think about this? Did the state of Alabama artificially make it so that people couldn't submit as good of applications, and then their favorites got a special web access to be able to submit larger applications that are much more thorough and detailed as opposed to their counterparts?
I didn't know that Alabama was this sophisticated. Like, I would imagine that they, of course, we're giving the licenses to all of their buddies and friends down there, but to actually like rig the application system digitally so that only some people can upload the right documents and the other people can't, that's a little sophisticated finagling there, Alabama. I'm surprised. I mean,
This sounds regionalist. This sounds regionalist right there. Just because we talk slow in the South don't mean we dumb now.
First of all, I grew up in Alabama, and the people there are not that sharp. They're not the sharpest tools in the box.
That's what they want. That's what they want you to think, city slicker.
They're not the sharpest toes in the shed.
I mean, I know farmers and people that own land in Alabama, and when they introduced the hemp licensing program down there, it was a shit show. Like they were going to the agricultural department and asking them to come and assess the land, and none of them knew how to do it. So it was pretty interesting watching the rollout of the hemp program down there. So I knew that when they introduced cannabis, it was gonna. I mean, of course, I'm hoping that they would have learned some things from the hemp program, but I mean, I just knew it was going to be very interesting to watch and see how they kind of rolled all that out.
But
is anyone really surprised? Is anyone
second guess?
Hold on. I mean, I don't know if I'm necessarily that surprised, because I do know that, like with other applications that I've had to submit, you are allowed to have a certain megabyte size within each individual file that you upload. But as far as the whole overall package, I mean, oh man, I think that this is super, super, super crazy. But at the same time, I'm not surprised, and I wonder if these other companies did get a little reach around and got like a little extra portal link where they had a little bit higher bandwidth to support a more thorough application.
Alabama government giving out ZJs.
I see what you're doing there, Jason.
You see that? You see that?
It's all about the reach around these days, you know?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about this, Gretchen? You push a lot of paper.
Nothing from Gretchen.
Nothing from Gretchen.
Suck it. I don't understand why this is breaking news. I mean, it's a shocker that a system's not working down in Alabama. Although Nicole Buffong, it's not a third world country. It is one of our 50 states. And they should be able to have a program that works.
I wonder if this licensing portal was built by Dominion.
My money is on that it's left over from good old Obamacare. I'm
getting sure about that. I mean, Alabama and Florida are pretty close to each other. They can easily just segregate and leave the country, the United States.
What do you think?
I wouldn't.
You think it was part of Obamacare, the portal?
That's what my money's on. And I'm usually right, even though you don't pay out, Jason Beck.
I've always paid out, girl.
Gretchen, you should look at Mississippi. I think Mississippi is close to a third world country in America without actual water.
But I mean, Louisiana, man, Louisiana's pretty bad. Like,
well, that's only because of BP.
They were trying to pass legislation in Louisiana to allow them to still lock up kids for cannabis.
Louisiana.
Bring the kids in it and ruin all the fun.
Well, I mean,
they still had medical before Alabama and Mississippi, so
So they're saying the game was rigged in Alabama.
That's what they're alleging. They're alleging that they gave the companies that were awarded licenses a little backdoor link so they could submit larger scale applications. But I guess this is going to be an ongoing story that's going to continue and continue and continue.
Part of the course.
Oh yeah, just goes to show you local governments picking winners and losers. But yeah, we're going to go to the commercial. We're going to be right back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Oh, yeah. Coming up next. That's right. We have the dope dad himself. That's right. Rico Lamitte, who just moved into his new home where he doesn't have to fight the internet gangbangers anymore. And he might actually have some more fiber in his diet. What do you have to say, dope dad, Rico Lamitte?
So my story is one coming out of Washington State. And it's all about pesticides. All right. So on last Thursday, April 6th, Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board sent out an alert notifying a number of cannabis licensees of a pattern of pesticide testing failures in Okanagan County. The WSLCB detected 18 instances of products containing dichloroethylene, dichloroethylene, or more commonly known as DDE, through random pesticide testing, many exceeding actuals, which led to the agency taking immediate action by placing administrative holds on licensees in the affected geographic area, requesting a list of all products distributed since August 2022, securing and testing on-shelf products from all 18 licensees, and requiring they conduct a licensee-initiated recall on everything on their shelves. DDE is a derivative chemical that forms following the breakdown of the infamous DDT, widely used in the U.S. as a pesticide until it was banned in 1972. The CDC says microorganisms in the soil slowly break down DDT in a process taking anywhere between 4 to 30 years. Risk for exposure is low, and most occur from eating contaminated foods. People that swallow large amounts report nausea, seizures, and no effects were noticed when people took a small dose over the course of 18 months. But people with higher levels of the chemical in their blood have an increased risk of liver cancer. Harris Bricken reported that there seems to be ample evidence of DDT being widely used in Washington, particularly in orchards and vineyards on the eastern slope of the Cascades. According to a 2008 research paper investigating DDT and DDE levels in Lake Chelan, Washington, DDT was commonly used at Washington orchards between 1946 and 1970, with high application rates being documented for eastern Washington orchards in the vicinity of Lake Chelan. For reference, Omak, the largest city in Okanagan County, is around 60 miles from that area. The DDE exposure occurred because producers in Okanagan County are dealing with the reemergence of pre-existing latent DDT on their properties. They stated in its alert, the cannabis crop possesses a unique vulnerability with respect to environmental contamination. The plants can absorb contaminants such as pesticides and heavy metals to a much higher degree than many other plants. And per the article, Washington State enacted a pesticide and heavy metals testing regime for cannabis in March 2022, listing 59 allowable pesticide compounds and their acceptable thresholds that cannabis products must be screened for before being sold. DDT and its derivative DDE are not contained on the list of compounds that are screened for. However, the state conducts random testing of cannabis products and has done so for years, and this is how they found it, putting subjects through a considerably more comprehensive process than the mandatory testing required by the industry. Harris Bricken says 18 licenses within the affected area will have a tough time surviving the administrative action being taken by the state, given the historically widespread use of DDT in the region, that at least some of the soil samples in WSLCB plan will come back contaminated. The result will be administrative holds on all 18 licensees, and whatever comes next is up in the air. While the recall is good to the point less folks are likely to get sick as a result, the problem here seems to be the pesticide screening protocols seen as standard currently in Washington's industry. With the WSLCB conducting their own more stringent methods, they detected more than what the industry is capable of currently. It's an interesting and unfortunate event for all involved, but I've got questions maybe some of y'all can help me out with here. While 18 licensees stand to lose their ability to operate in any capacity moving forward, how many will suffer the same fate in the future? Is this just a Washington state problem, or is this something that can and will happen elsewhere? And finally, is it government overreach with the state coming down and putting their testing limits on these cannabis companies? Do the licensees have the right to appeal here? So political corruption can come in all forms, but this is public health and safety. This is Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street, and I'd love to hear from the rest of you guys. What do you think about this one?
Man, DDE and DDT have long been used in California. Actually, some California history here. They dumped a lot of the DDE and DDT into the ocean, actually off the coast of like El Segundo, and it's been sitting at the bottom of the ocean, just like in these barrels that have puncture holes in them. So it's just been seeping out into the ocean. DDE is fat soluble. So the problem is when it gets into someone's body, it's hard to excrete it from your body because of all the fat we have, right? So just as what we eat. It's not like that easy, right? And it gets you sick too, Jason. So it's like you're not going to be actually healthy enough to like feel like you're going to go to the gym to like get yourself better.
Can you sweat it out though? Can you sweat it out?
Well, it's fat soluble, so you have to excrete it in the same manner as like, you would THC. So it stays stored in your fat cells for like however much time. And so it's like the toxicity limit. I was reading like while Rico was talking, I was reading the toxicity limit in rats is like 80 milligrams per kilogram. So it's not a lot to like really make you sick or even toxic and die. But this is like long standing, right? This has been happening since the 30s. And we're seeing like how long it takes to actually remove these kind of contaminants or these products from just the supply chain. And, it's been almost 100 years and we're still seeing this stuff kind of popping up. So imagine, if we were continuing to use those like well into like the mid 1900s, how long it would take. But honestly, it's the problem is the municipalities or the states, that were like basically letting the ag workers or the farms kind of do whatever. We had the same problem here in Central Coast. They were allowing these guys to dump whatever kind of fertilizers into the ground, and it's contaminated the soil now. So now Central Coast of California has a lot of cadmium buildup in the soil, and that's mobile in the cannabis plant. So that's actually being absorbed. So a lot of these guys that are growing weed on these certain areas, their product it's contaminated to the point where they can't potentially sell the flower. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. It's like a big ball of wax to kind of wind here.
Yeah, we have Dr. Felicia to shed some light on this too. Dr. Felicia, what do you have to share on this?
Hey, everybody. We have to remember that cannabis and hemp are bioaccumulators. They suck in toxins from the air, water, and soil. So growers really would be advised to test the soil before you even plant, to make sure it doesn't have these kind of issues as well as heavy metals. And some people even recommend that people not even try to plant cannabis in and around major cities because of all of the fuel emissions and heavy metal contamination. The other thing about small doses, just like the entourage effect, where you have a lot of cannabinoids adding up to create a much bigger effect than what they would produce on their own. The same thing happens with toxins. You might have a little bit of this toxin and it not be harmful, but when you put a little bit of a lot of toxins, like our country right now, where we're allowing industry to pollute the water and the air and our food on a daily basis, that adds up. There was a study that came out in 2021 looking at women who were exposed to the highest levels of DDT back in the 50s and the 60s. And the women who were exposed, who had the highest levels in their flesh, had increased risk of breast cancer. but that their daughters have a higher rate of obesity and their granddaughters have a higher rate of obesity, as well as early menses, which is how old a woman is when she first gets her period. The earlier you get your period, you increase your risk for breast cancer. The age of your first period used to be 12. It's dropping down to 8 years old now. So this is a very important issue. My heart goes out to those people who product has been held up now, but anyone dealing with cannabis because of its nature to bioaccumulate, you really should test your soil before you even put anything in the ground. I'm done speaking.
Thanks, Dr. Felicia. That was amazing.
Saman,
Well, I think.
oh, go ahead, Gretchen.
Well, I was just gonna say what I think is also I don't want to say a bigger issue here, but something we have not mentioned yet is that they found this problem because they did some extra testing, and this was not picked up through regular state testing. Right. That needs to be a concern to cannabis consumers, that they're not coming across this, or they're not looking for the right things, or not doing harsh enough levels, really looking at the risks that are going to consumers. I mean, this is something we need to care about.
What happens is the state releases a list of approved pesticides that cultivators are allowed to use at certain levels, but all pesticides are not on that list, right? So some of the nefarious cultivators will just go around the list and figure out what is not being tested, what is not being tested for, and use that. You know, here in Nevada, it recently happened with a pesticide called Ethafon. And a company was using this Ethafon, and a disgruntled employee ended up calling the CCB and say, hey, these guys are using this thing. And literally thousands of products were recalled from hundreds of SKUs. They were in every dispensary across the state. And there was a huge recall because of this Ethafon. But basically what it is folks that are looking to use pesticides that are unapproved for usage on cannabis, and that's what causes all the issues.
Well, Todd, quick question on that, Todd. If the state wasn't testing for it and they had any regulation against that chemical, how were they able to pull all those products off the shelf?
Well, what happened was the employee went to the CCB and said, hey, my cultivation is using this unapproved pesticide. So they went to a dispensary, they took some product, they ran it through their own testing and found this Ethafon on there, and then created this recall. But you're right. How most labs, all labs, are not even testing for it because it's not a prerequisite, right? So that's what some guys are doing. They're just finding something that's not on the list and using it instead. As a testing lab, we have to report all unapproved pesticides, which we do, but sometimes they show up and sometimes they don't. When you're focusing on 23 specific pesticides, that's what you're looking for. That's what the machine is looking for. That's what the analyst is looking for. And very often an unapproved pesticide is overlooked. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's exactly right. You're looking only through a certain lens when you're doing this type of assay. You have 23 there, 30 here, 34 here in California. Like, you have to train your machine to look for these types of things. And if you have to look for more, I mean, the robustness of the equipment, the sensitivity of the equipment, the cost of all that. Todd, I know you can attest to that. But it's like a steep slope, right? And Gretchen, you're right. It's like, why aren't they looking at that stuff? But then it's like they're putting more regulation on the industry. Then you have all this upheaval on both sides. Who wins in that? It's, of course, public health and safety comes first with all the product, in my opinion. But I mean, the operators are honestly, like, that's the issue, is the operators have the burden of creating a business out of this. And like, it's, there's a lot of people that are gonna, Saman,
Jody Dye in our clubhouse chat says that a local farmer in Ohio had to burn down a whole crop because they found cadmium in there.
Cadmium. Yeah.
That's a heavy metal, so that's different than a pesticide. But I mean, it's the same thing. It's all about what's happening to the earth, right? When you're producing anything on that, whether you're making, whether you're growing broccoli or you're growing Brussels sprouts or whatever, it's all about how you're treating that process. And I mean, you know, we use, like, some farmers are using salt-based feed here for cannabis, some are organic. I mean, there's a lot of different methods and modes of doing the thing, but it's ultimately like the earth is here and we have to keep using it and revitalizing it. So regenerative farming methods, and I know we have a lot of our own
There we
hosts
go
on
with
our,
that
on our
green
show there.
pop again.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point, right? So ultimately, there's a conclusion here, which is like there's a regenerative, safe way to do things. That should be probably, you know, the standard. But when you're trying to make a business, you can't tell people, in this country at least, you can't tell people how to run their business. You have to let them do it.
Bullshit. What are you
Well,
talking about? That's what
what do
this
you
whole
mean, what am
country
I
is
talking
based on, is
about?
telling people how to run
That's
their
right.
shit.
There's
Well,
regulations
not
everywhere.
agriculture, not ag.
Well, there should be. And frankly, if they've determined that these levels are unsafe in other products and other crops, I don't know why they're leaving it off the list for cannabis. And I'm sorry if
agree.
you think that's over regulating the industry.
I'm not.
But
Look,
when people
I'm
start
neutral.
dying,
I'm
that's
neutral.
not going to be helpful to the industry either.
But I mean, but the point is, they were regulating this long ago, and they were allowing this stuff, but they didn't know, and so that's the point. Is they don't
All
know
right,
this shit.
well,
We don't
they
know
know
what we don't
now.
know. Well, we'll find out more later too. But that's the kind of the thing, is we think we know everything, and we are kind of fast to act when we don't do the actual research. So this is just kind of our society we're dealing with here.
Yeah, one thing I want to add to this is that, you know, we're about 100,000 samples in our testing lab here in Vegas, and you know, from a heavy metal standpoint, we have found probably less than 10,000 for heavy metals, and from a pesticide standpoint, you know, less than 50. Right, in the early days of legalization, we used to find pesticides, but it the result of that is destruction of the entire batch, right?
Yeah.
Usually the entire crop. So most growers, you know, aren't using unapproved pesticides, and most cannabis samples, you know, do not have heavy metals in them. I even think that the heavy metal test is a little overkill, because, you know, less than 10 with 100,000 samples in is literally zero, right, on the chart. But just keep in mind that most cannabis is clean. It is important, though, to get rid of the nefarious players for sure.
Very interesting indeed. And I agree with you. It'll just be interesting going forward, because if this happens in other states, we see a major shift. But let's keep it rocking here. Let's keep it moving. And up next, by day, she's known for doling out verbal bipartisan smackdowns to pot-loving libs across the aisle and conservative cronies alike, before luring them into the kitchen the same evening to work things out diplomatically while being served by unpaid and undocumented pit bulls and aprons. Up next is the founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey.
All right. Well, I know people love it when I do this, so the hell with my story. I'm just going to tell you the headline because that's all Jason ever reads. Congressional Progressive Caucus urges Biden to expedite marijuana scheduling review and push for federal guidance. Basically, another caucus on the Hill has said, Biden, get your shit together. Will he listen? No. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Hold on. So what happened, Gretchen? Say that again.
The whole story?
That's it in a nutshell.
You're saying that the woke left caucus urges
The
Biden.
Congressional Progressive Caucus is
the woke
calling
caucus.
on Biden. You call it what you will, Jason Beck.
Woke. Go woke.
Is
Go
telling them, simmer down, is telling them to expedite the rescheduling review process.
Why do they want to rush this so much? They trying to get something done before Biden leaves office?
Maybe they want to get people out of jail, Jason Beck.
They're not going to get anyone out of jail with any rescheduling. That's just
saying,
stupid. That's
this
a
is
pipe
what they're
dream.
pushing for.
It's a pipe dream. People are ridiculous.
Okay.
You think so?
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
Basically, this group is a whole other group trying to tell Biden to do something. He will ignore them. He will do what he wants.
I hope he does ignore them.
Okay.
You don't want it rescheduled?
No,
Jay?
I want no form of rescheduling. The only answer is descheduling. If we have any form of rescheduling, the industry gets handed over to the pharmaceutical industry, and every single product on the cannabis marketplace in every single state is an illicit product, because none of them have been through an FDA screening process.
That's right.
Nor will
Clap
any
for
of them
Jason.
have the money to be able to do that.
Okay, well, this is not just about rescheduling, Jason Beck. They're just saying speed up the actual review.
But the whole point is that Biden
no,
wants to move it to Schedule 3, and that's going to screw everybody up. So encouraging him to hurry up when he's already moving so slow like snail.
Are you pillow partners with President Biden? Are you there at night whispering sweet
I am there. Yeah, I'm actually on the medical board with Dr. Jill.
Okay.
Oh my God, Jason.
I really, frankly, don't think we're going to see any movement whatsoever
I
from
hope we
good old
don't.
Biden either direction.
Yep.
But just because they're saying to move forward with the rescheduling process does not mean that they're looking at just rescheduling. This group has called for legalization. They have called for expungement of records. They've called for everything that you want, Jason Beck.
They should call 911.
No reparations for you, Rico. I'm sorry. That's not on
their
their
to-do 911. List. That's who they should be calling.
But this is another 100 members of Congress saying, hey, let's do something about pot. And then no one's going to listen.
Reparations will be a 2024 issue. On the
state of Nevada is sending a joint resolution to Congress recommending that they deschedule cannabis. They want to do it here in the state of Nevada, but they couldn't even do that this session. Shout out to Assemblyman Ruben De Silva, who was trying to get that passed in the assembly and couldn't get it done. So they decided to create a joint resolution that they're going to send to Congress recommending that they deschedule.
Good. That's good. I'm glad someone's at least hearing it and like understanding it and getting it and making some common sense approach, Nicole.
I mean, a joint resolution don't mean shit. You can wipe your ass with it. It's like, it doesn't mean anything, holds no weight at all.
My joint's resolute a lot.
Sure they do, Jason. Sure they do.
Yeah, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be back. Thank you very much, everybody.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good thing the law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. If you're an easily offended person, this show is probably not for you, and maybe you should send a letter to Biden too and ask him to move it along. Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Up next, it's the founder of Purple Plant Magic herself, coming straight out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Huge representative and the West Coast director for M4MM and our very own encyclopedia, because it's not Wednesday, it's Tuesday. So let's talk about it. Nicole Buffong, what do you have for us today on this beautiful Tuesday morning?
Oh, good morning. Good morning, everyone. All is well. I just got back from Rally Day up in Carson City here in Nevada. So shout out to the Chamber of Cannabis and for MM and the Chamber walking the halls in Carson City, trying to make a difference here. One of the initiatives in our bill is to allow felons to work in the industry, or at least to allow the employer to decide that, take that out-of-state statute and allow it to be on the employer's decision of who they would like to hire. And then we also want to double the daily purchase limit That's for patients and adult use consumers. It benefits both because, like right now, the purchase limit is 1 ounce and like 3 grams of concentrate. So I think it might even be 2.5. So we're trying to make sure that people don't have to come back so often to the dispensaries. But anyway, it was fun, and I appreciate the work that has to be done on the ground to make history or her story here in Nevada. And that's what we're doing. But to my story today, I'm going to give you a quick update on what's happening in the world. It's great. My article comes out of Benzinga, and it kind of updates you on a few countries. In South Africa, they're going to introduce new cannabis laws. The measure is a proposed amendment to the Cannabis for Private Purposes bill. Interested stakeholders have been invited to write submissions by Friday, April 28th. If passed, the legislation will allow for the cultivation of a prescribed quantity of cannabis plants, the possession of a certain amount of cannabis, and the consumption of cannabis. It also seeks to provide for the expungement of criminal records of persons convicted of possessing or using cannabis or dealing in cannabis based on a presumption, and for commercial activities related to cannabis. Current laws allow both the use and cultivation of cannabis in private spaces. However, it's not entirely clear what is considered under the term private place. The latest push to legalize cannabis stems from a high court ruling in 2017. In the Bahamas, they are inching towards legalization of medical cannabis now more than ever, with Attorney General revealing that a draft bill that seeks to set up a medical cannabis industry nationwide is expected to be released for consultation in roughly a month. He says that the Attorney General says, I can let you know that all the pieces of legislation have been drafted along with regulations in the respective orders. The legislation encompasses a number of amendments in a number of areas, such as the Pharmacy Act have to be amended because you deal with dispensary items and all of that. So we made all those amendments in draft form. Well, I'm glad that they're actually putting it in pharmacies. I know that that is the route that St. Vincent and the Grenadines went, and a couple of other countries in the Caribbean, that everything was going through their pharmacies. So descheduling it and decriminalizing had to come first in order for it to put it through that government system. In the Czech Republic, they are also inching towards legalizing cannabis. The plan will take effect in 2025, includes the introduction of regulated cannabis market and strategies for managing other addictions, including alcohol, tobacco, drugs, and gambling. In Malta, new cannabis rules open door for greenhouses and chain store clubs. Malta's regulations for the sale of recreational cannabis could make way for large groups vying to control the market. Surprise, surprise. Potentially leading to the emergence of cannabis retailer chains. In Costa Rica, the cannabis and hemp industry is looking to be legalizing medicinal marijuana, or when they did it over a year ago, I'm sorry. But under the new law, hemp cultivation and industrial production were also legalized. Now experts are advocating for the country to take further steps towards joining the world market. To that end, International Hemp and Cannabis Markets Challenges and Opportunities for Costa Rica will be held on May 2nd. They're going to be having some type of town hall, it looks like. Participants will gain insight into the production, treatment, and export of plants and derived products. So that is interesting. These countries are moving forward. I like to hear it. I like to see it. Shout out to the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference happening right now in Miami. Roz was on a stage this morning talking about how hard it is for women and to get that capital that's floating around. So shout out to the family down there. If you're in Florida this week, make sure you stop by Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference. This is Nicole Buffong reporting for Hot 9 News. Love to hear what everyone thinks about this rundown of what's happening.
How much of reform is classified as quote unquote wokeness, Jason?
Well, what some of the things that Nicole said kind of worry me. Are they trying to create some like global organization cannabis around the globe in all of these underserved communities, Nicole, from what I did?
Say that again, Jason.
You made it sound like they're trying to create like some like global council to regulate cannabis from Jamaica to all the other islands to all these other places that aren't as economically astute.
Well,
right now, understanding.
well, right now in the Caribbean, there is a body that was formed about 5 years ago to
Is Steve
help them.
D'Angelo behind that?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
I hear he's hiding out there.
Okay. Well, what I'm sure of is that this regulatory body was put in place 5 years ago to help them decide on whether or not to legalize. And that's when you kind of, it was after Jamaica legalized, which actually Jamaica did not legalize, they decriminalized. But it was after that this body was formed, and it's from leaders from all over the Caribbean that were put together to go over the research. And from that report, they came back. It's the CARICOM report or body that came together and put the research on the ground and said, look, this is a plant. It's medicine. We obviously have a viable industry here in the Caribbean. And if we don't get in on this industry now, then we're going to lose out significantly. And that's why you've seen islands in the Caribbean coming on board. It's based on that CARICOM report that came out in 2016 or 17, I think it was, maybe even 18. So there are certain, but they're not a regulatory body. Like each island, each country has their own regulatory body. Nobody is trying to have a global regulatory body. Well, at least not yet.
Interesting. Well,
Are you against global standards, Jason?
I'm against global organizations in that sense, trying to impose X, Y, and Z. Yes, I am.
Okay, but what about a Rastafarian coalition? They would be global.
As long as they're not, as long as they're not being fed their talking points from people that we, undesirables. Let's just say.
I mean, in my dream world, the Rastafarians globally. Yeah. In my dream world, the Rastafarians globally would be in charge of cannabis.
Yes,
that's in my dream world. But I know that they speak too much truth. They speak too much truth, and they don't follow Babylon law, so they would never let them be in control. But it would be ideal to have them regulating on a global scale how cannabis is grown and cultivated and harvested, and having just their influence and input on how to take care of the plant would be amazing.
Oh, wouldn't they have to be growing fire ass weed in order to be able to determine how people are growing weed?
Well, wherever you are growing your weed, it's going to be fire if you're using the right genetics that come from there, and the sun and soil that comes from there.
All sun booth.
Okay. Well, that same booth could also cure cancer. It might not make you high, but it could also actually cure disease. So let's just consider that.
I'm all with considerations. I'm just not with mandates or woman dates or whatever else type of pronoun they want to put in front of it.
Oh my God, this is not a direction I know that we want to go into right now, but I'm all for it. Bring it. Give me some more of that. Give me some more of that.
We'll be right back.
Let's go.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Oh yeah, coming up next, it's the designer of facilities. He's also a formulation specialist that reminds women in menopause how to say hello again. That's right. It is the man, Mr. Saman Razani.
Hello, community family. Thanks a lot for having me again today. I appreciate you guys. Great to see everyone's face. I've got a great story today out of Oklahoma, everyone's favorite cannabis producing state. Well, no surprise here. This has to do with trapping weed out of an Amazon truck in Oklahoma. Story comes from a news outlet in Oklahoma, and I will tell you the name. It's KOCO, and this story is very interesting. A years-long federal investigation has led to a huge black market marijuana bust in Oklahoma City. The suspect was accused of using a fake Amazon delivery truck to traffic thousands of pounds of marijuana around the metro. The federal court documents detailed exactly how the suspect was able to slip under the radar for so long. The Federal Bureau of Investigations and the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics said the suspect, Brandon Yee, used to transport black market marijuana from an Amazon delivery van. According to court documents, the FBI has been investigating the illegal drug operation since November of 2021. The FBI said Yee would use his business, Arch Granite and Cabinetry, as a warehouse and pickup location for loads of drugs. In the court documents, it says Yee drives the Amazon van to visit Oklahoma-based marijuana grows where large black trash bags containing vacuum-sealed packages of marijuana are loaded up and transported to initial stash houses controlled by Yee. The marijuana would then be repackaged and transported to Yee's warehouse in OKC. At these locations, the documents say, at the warehouses, it appears that a semi truck is loaded about once a week with marijuana for transport out of state. Law enforcement pulled over one of those trucks back in February. Inside, approximately 2,700 pounds of packaged marijuana, and an amount of marijuana is well in excess of 1,000 kilograms, was found during a traffic stop on a semi truck in Indiana. Right now, the suspect is charged with drug conspiracy in federal court. This is Saman Razani reporting to High 9 News, and I would love to, I'm sure everyone's shocked to hear this, but what are your thoughts? I mean, semi trucks once a week since 2021. Wow.
Well, no, that's when the investigation started, so it was going on before that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, exactly. So let's just count when the investigation was. I mean, that's a lot of weed. That's a lot of
They were driving around. They had an Amazon work truck that they would drive around and do deliveries in.
That was just the local stuff. That was just the local. Then they got the JB Hunts going across, with the chicken feed, as they call it.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
amazing.
It is a good tech for moving boxes, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess it's he's living the American dream. What can I say? Any thoughts from the rest of our crew? Any thoughts? How much money do you think this guy was transporting monthly?
I mean, it's not like it's Humboldt County's finest coming out of Oklahoma. I mean, I've smoked Oklahoma weed.
You'd be surprised, Nicole. You'd be surprised. Some of the weed actually was interestingly, it was pretty. It pretty much mimicked that. But there's definitely places in Oklahoma. It's not just all over,
Right. Okay. So I have visited Oklahoma a couple of times, and I love Oklahoma. I just was not, impressed with what I was exposed to there. So I guess that's just me.
I was in it. I was in the thick of it.
I wish I could have explored more and tried more for sure, because I would love to have some really good Smokelahoma.
Smokelahoma. That's right.
Smokelahoma. I mean, Gretchen, what do you think?
David, I'm always on mute. My question is for Saman. Did it say if this was leaving Oklahoma? Was this going other places?
Yes, it did say that. It said transportation out of state.
But it didn't say where.
Well, hold on.
Indiana was where the semi truck was caught. You just don't know where it was going. Could have been going to New York or wherever.
Could have been going to Indiana.
Could have been going to Indiana.
Mike Pence put in a big order.
I mean,
him and Boehner were splitting it.
So the article referenced that they would do their local deliveries with the Amazon truck, and then they had a big Freightliner that they would load up once a week that would do deliveries. Who knows elsewhere? But they would have one freight truck once a week that would pull up in the article, according to the article.
Yeah. Gretchen, what do you think? You love the truck.
I think it's kind of ingenious,
Gretchen, what do you think?
I'm with you, Todd.
I don't know what Saman asked me. What'd you say?
Oh, I was saying you got the truckers, so talk to me about what these guys are thinking, doing, taking the risk potentially to do this. I mean, to be honest, it's it's a very interesting time right now because some of these states are trying to adapt and adopt and promulgate some new laws allowing for interstate commerce with certain other states. So the trucks are probably going to be one of the most utilized forms of transportation for all that. So are you hearing any chatter from the truckers, Gretchen?
Bless your hearts. When
Trucker
chatter. There is no chatter in
On the
Washington
CB
at all
radio?
when it comes to cannabis.
Breaker,
We don't
breaker.
have chatter. No.
That's not true. They
Yeah.
talk in code. They use the numbers 420 and 710 all the time.
And they say the
Okay.
bear and the plain white wrappers.
Yeah.
This ain't Smokey and the Bandit. I don't know what y'all are talking about. This guy wasn't a real trucker, correct? He just was driving around.
The trucker was obviously had a CDL license to.
And this ain't a real truck. This is
This
like
guy
a little
wasn't
baby truck.
How do you know they had a real CDL? You don't know that.
Of course they did, bro.
What makes you think that?
What, you think they're not going to break the law there?
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa,
Get out of here.
Wait. Time out.
You got to show that CDL license.
Hold on. Do you think, Gretchen, that this guy, Brandon, he was the guy driving the trucks? No. He was the guy that was like masterminding this whole thing. He had truck drivers coming in and out of there. You think it was like
but
one
I'm asking
driver?
You, do you
No,
think they're real
one a week is not
CDL licensed truckers?
I think so.
Why?
Because they're like
they're more expensive.
I don't know. If they were okay, at one point they have a truck, right? So it's like if you have a rig, I don't know about the rules.
I could buy a rig
about
down the
owning
street
a truck.
for $500. What
Exactly.
are you talking about?
That would make you a trucker.
Going.
This looks like a used U-Haul. What are you talking about?
This a used U-Haul. It's a van. It's like a Amazon delivery van.
No, I'm looking
There's
at
two
the truck
things
in the
here,
picture.
Gretchen. You're convoluting the two things.
I'm looking at
You're
the
like,
truck.
There's
the
a
big
local
truck.
and an out-of-state situation.
And I'm looking at what I'm assuming is the out-of-state one because it is a larger box truck.
No, that's the local.
No, that's the local.
Yeah,
that's not an Amazon van.
They were driving an Amazon van locally, Saman. Don't get it twisted. They were driving an Amazon van.
That box truck.
Not an Amazon van. It probably is the truck that they're referencing.
Yeah. Well.
Or it's one. Or it's what they were using that's now abandoned.
I don't know when the Republicans
I think this has just gone a ridiculous turn. Where's Todd with a real story?
Let's keep it going. Let's keep this
velvety smooth voice.
Yes, let's do it. Up next, he's a dope granddaddy, or shall we call him Granddaddy Dope? Come to the stage next with the golden voice and the co-founder of the Smuggleverse, 30-year media producer, director, editor, and did 13 years as a C-suite cannabis executive. Y'all know who it is. The president and founder of Digipath Labs, Todd Denkin.
Thank you, Rico. Thank you, everybody. And my story comes out of Nevada from the Marijuana Moment as Nevada lawmakers reconsider marijuana tax rules that growers say threaten to put them out of business. Nevada's marijuana growers say they are being overtaxed, big surprise, and on the brink of going out of business thanks to a tax formula that relies on the state's calculation of fair market value of a pound of cannabis rather than its actual wholesale price. Competing proposals to tweak the calculation would each cost the state millions of dollars a year in tax revenue, designated in part for education. Put simply, growers are selling a pound for $1,000 and paying taxes as if they sold it for $2,000, said Assemblywoman Shay Backus as she testified on Tuesday. The Department of Taxation publishes the fair market value of cannabis twice a year based on data that may be 3 months old at the time it's released. Cannabis prices have plummeted rapidly in recent years, leaving the state to rely on stale data. The fair market value is currently $1,944 for a pound of cannabis flower. The actual wholesale price is half of that, according to testimony from John Ackle of Zenway Corporation, a cultivation facility in North Las Vegas. However, the fair market value price has not dropped a similar amount. As a result, our effective tax rate has averaged between 25 and 30%, Ackle testified. On some individual sales, the tax has been as high as 60%. With effective tax rates as high as this, it is not possible to meet all of our other obligations, he added. Ackle says Zenway is behind on its taxes and has a payment plan with the state. He says basing the wholesale cannabis tax on actual sales rather than an amount set by the state would give cultivators an effective tax rate of 15%. Salpi Boyajian, a former licensee of Flower One, a cultivation company that recently underwent bankruptcy proceedings in Canada, told the committee that the company has paid approximately $30 million in wholesale marijuana tax since 2019. She said that represented 24% of our revenue. If the intent was to truly charge us 15% of our wholesale sales, that would have equated to about $18 million of taxes collected, meaning we technically overpaid by over $11 million. This amount would have been able to potentially save the company and prevent all of these people, including myself, from losing a very large amount of money. Nevada's legal marijuana industry was expected to generate an endless stream of profit for the individuals granted highly coveted licenses by the state. The reality in recent years, with the exception of a COVID-era boom, has been sobering for the fledgling industry. In 2021, sales totaled more than $1 billion, but fell 16% last year and are down 19.5% in 2023. Lake Martin, executive director of the Nevada Cannabis Association, said, "Our largest competition being the unlicensed illicit market, which doesn't have tax obligations, doesn't have the cost of compliance, doesn't have the cost of testing. They can sell for much, much cheaper," she testified yesterday. A presentation from the NCA noted the cost of regulation, including excessive fines, fees, and what they call time and effort charges, has skyrocketed in recent years. The state's time and effort billings to licensees totaled $388,000 in 2019, $1.7 million in 2022, and are projected to reach $2.54 million for 2023 based on the data from the state. Given the illegal federal status of cannabis, licensees lack the ability to employ standard business strategies, such as writing off expenses, yet they are on the hook for federal payroll and income taxes. Assembly Bill 430 is intended to reduce the burden on cultivators by setting a flat 15% tax on wholesale transactions between unaffiliated companies, while transfers within vertically integrated operations would be taxed in accordance with the state-issued fair market value, a proposal that gives growers no relief on sales to affiliated companies. The measure would also require the state to publish a new fair market value data quarterly rather than twice a year. The proposal is based on the formula used in Colorado and has the support of the NCA. The simplest way to go forward, as every state has done except Colorado, is eliminate the wholesale tax, suggested Will Adler, who is a lobbyist representing the Sierra Cannabis Coalition, which is seeking to eliminate the wholesale tax and increase the current retail tax on recreational sales from 10% to 15% to capture some of the lost revenue. Washington eliminated its wholesale taxes and now charges consumers a 37% retail tax on products. The proposal met with opposition from the NCA, and Brandon Wygand, who is the president of the NCA and chief operating officer at Thrive Cannabis Marketplace, said, "High taxes are already the number one complaint they get from consumers." Adler argues that customers are already paying a higher price that includes the cost of the wholesale tax. Some lawmakers raised concerns about the loss of revenue to the state under both proposals. Cannabis sales contributed to $147 million to education in 2022. The 10% retail tax imposed on recreational sales generated $89 million in 2022. Revenue is distributed directly to education funding. The 15% wholesale tax on from cultivation facilities to other licensees generated $63 million in 2022. Revenue goes to the operating budget of the Cannabis Control Board and to local governments throughout the state to offset the effects of the legal industry. The state sales tax of roughly 8% imposed on cannabis sales generated $77 million in 2022. Taxing arm's length transactions as a flat 15% rather than based on the state's fair market value would cut the revenue by $19 million in fiscal year 23, followed by an annual increases of several $million a year, according to estimates provided by the Sierra Cannabis Coalition. The proposal to eliminate wholesale taxes and increase the retail tax would result in a loss of $15 million in fiscal year 23, also followed by annual increases of several $1 million a year. Department of Taxation officials testified eliminating the wholesale tax would reduce the department's workload considerably. And the committee took no action on the measure. Shocking. I'm Todd Denkin with High at Night News. What do you guys think about this overtaxed and overregulated product?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so right now in the state of Nevada, you're paying about 18% for your cannabis products in taxes if you are an adult use consumer. And that means that this wholesale tax, changing it from 10 to 15%, would increase it to 22. Is that right? 23?
Yep.
Something like that. That they would be paying in taxes on products here in Nevada. I just see it following in the same footsteps as California, and eventually the industry will implode on itself with the overregulation and overtaxing, and allow the legacy market to thrive because of it. And so I don't know. More taxes is not a solution.
No.
That's
It
right.
it is not. Not
That is
not
right.
when you're dealing with this product. It doesn't make sense.
Sure.
Not when the legacy market is thriving. I mean, and they keep saying that the taxes is supposed to deter people and try to eliminate the illicit market. It doesn't work that way. It just drives more people to it, because why would you pay for it's $10 for the same amount of stuff that you could buy for $5? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we'll tax you and you'll like it. That's what they're saying. Yeah,
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a little out of control, and the time and effort fees are also out of control. You know, the
that's
CCB
crazy.
here in Nevada charges time and effort, so they charge $111 per hour per person
That's
to
nuts.
do anything for a licensed operator.
So they come
if
in
they have
and
to visit
enter
you, if they have to send an email, if they have to answer a phone call, they do an audit, it costs $111 per hour. Our audit cost us over $68,000 this year.
Unbelievable.
To be audited by the state. $68,000. We had to come up with.
Did you ask to be audited?
No, I did not ask to be audited.
Who would ask to be audited?
I would
make
sue
sense.
the state for sending me that bill.
That is crazy.
It's really unbelievable.
I tell them it's
problem-
your job to pay your own employees, state. They're not my employees.
Right. And
No, my taxes pay for them anyway. What are you talking about? We already pay for them.
what is interesting in Nevada, though, for this legislative session is that there are several bills coming in from legislators that are trying to limit the reach of the CCB because their reach has been so ridiculous in the last 5 years. So there is an effort coming from legislators saying, look, the CCB is doing too much. And I don't know if that's from the push from our new governor, because he's a former cop, and I don't know, maybe, and he's a Republican, so maybe he sees this, overregulation is reaching, and he wants to put a pause in what they do. But from the moment he got into office in January, he actually put a pause on the CCB and what they could do while he evaluated their actual jobs and purpose and what they're doing, because the fines that the CCB are putting out are putting people out of business.
They're definitely doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, same thing's going on over here.
Mo taxes, mo trapping.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I'm surprised how cheap your guys' tax rate is in Nevada.
I know.
Yeah,
18% is good.
Yeah. Over here, it's like 40% by the time you add them all up.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
we're in the
insane.
35 to 37%. Yeah, Colorado too. I mean, it's a straight robbery, and that's why I still buy my weed in a plastic bag and not in a dispensary. I mean, that's just the truth, right?
Yeah,
It is.
And on that note, we want to thank you all for getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank you to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Thank you to all of our haters out there for always talking and thinking about us, because we have the most immaculate pieces of property rent-free inside of your head. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Mr. Omar Figueroa. That is right. And whoever else's ad we ran today. Also, thank you guys, too. We appreciate y'all very much. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, Zaza Simone Brown holding us down in Clubhouse. And thank you all for tuning in daily and getting high at 9 with us. It's America's #1 daily cannabis news show.
Peace out, people.